95% of Americans today have no idea that in 1945, soap had become so scarce in Germany that women were using ash and sand to wash themselves. And toothpaste was such a luxury that entire families shared a single tube for months. But what happened when American soldiers started handing out these basic hygiene items to German women after the war ended shocked both sides in ways that military planners never anticipated and created psychological impacts that influenced German-American relations for decades. Martha Schneider hadn't used real soap in over 2 years when Private Tommy Rodriguez from Chicago placed a bar of ivory soap in her trembling hands. Outside the ruins of Hamburg in June 1945, she stared at that white rectangle, like it was made of gold, unable to comprehend why an American soldier would give her something so precious. In Nazi Germany's final years, soap had been rationed to virtually nothing. Families received one small bar every 6 months if they were lucky. Most German women had resorted to making their own cleaning agents from wood ash, animal fat scraps, and whatever chemicals they could scavenge from bombed buildings. The concept of an enemy soldier casually giving away what had become an impossible luxury challenged everything Martha thought. She knew about conquest and occupation. The soap shortage in wartime Germany had reached catastrophic levels by 1944 because the Nazi regime had diverted all fat and oil resources to military production, leaving civilians with no raw materials for basic hygiene products. German women were literally washing their clothes and bodies with harsh chemical substitutes that burned their skin and provided minimal cleaning effectiveness. Toothpaste had disappeared entirely from civilian markets. Families were brushing their teeth with salt, baking soda, or simply nothing at all. Children born during the final war years had never seen actual toothpaste and didn't understand what the tubes American soldiers were handing out was supposed to do. Private Rodriguez had grown up during the Great Depression, when his Mexican-American family sometimes struggled to afford basic necessities. But even in their poorest times, they had never faced the complete absence of soap and toothpaste that he witnessed in occupied Germany. His mother had taught him that cleanliness was dignity, and seeing German women trying to maintain hygiene with ash and sand moved him to action that went far beyond his military duties. He began purchasing soap, toothpaste, and other hygiene items with his own money from military commissaries and distributing them to German civilians who seemed desperate for these basic necessities. The psychological impact on German women when they received soap and toothpaste from American soldiers was immediate and profound because these items represented the restoration of basic human dignity and femininity that years of war had stripped away. Elizabeth Muller, a former teacher from Berlin, broke down crying when handed a tube of Colgate toothpaste because it meant she could finally clean her teeth properly for the first time in 3 years. She wrote in her diary, "This American boy has given me back a piece of my humanity that I thought was gone forever. With real toothpaste, I can face the world without shame about my breath and appearance. Such a small thing, but it makes me feel like a woman. Again, rather than a war survivor." The distribution of hygiene items by American soldiers wasn't official policy initially, but represented individual acts of compassion that gradually became informal programs as more soldiers witnessed the desperate conditions faced by German civilians. Sergeant Robert Murphy from Iowa organized his entire squad to contribute money for purchasing soap, toothpaste, shampoo, and other hygiene supplies that they distributed in their assigned sector of occupied Berlin. His reasoning was both practical and humanitarian. Helping German civilians maintain basic hygiene would prevent disease outbreaks that could affect American troops, while demonstrating democratic values in action. The scarcity of hygiene products in post-war Germany was so severe that receiving soap from American soldiers often represented the first time in years that German women could properly bathe, wash their hair, or clean their clothes. The psychological transformation that occurred when women could finally achieve basic cleanliness was remarkable and documented by military medical personnel who observed improved mental health and social behavior among German civilians who gained access to hygiene supplies. Clean hair, clean clothes, and fresh breath restored confidence and dignity that enabled women to begin rebuilding their lives and communities. With renewed hope and energy, American Soldiers were shocked by the desperate gratitude expressed by German women for items that Americans considered basic necessities available to everyone, regardless of economic circumstances. Staff Sergeant William Chen from San Francisco couldn't understand why German women were treating bars of soap like precious gifts until he learned that many hadn't used real soap in over 2 years. His letters home described the emotional reactions he witnessed. These German ladies cry when you give them soap, not because they're trying to manipulate us, but because they genuinely can't believe that someone would give them something they've needed so desperately for so long. The cultural exchange that occurred through hygiene distribution created unexpected, personal connections between American soldiers and German women that transcended military occupation relationships and created lasting friendships based on shared humanity. Maria Santos, a widow from Munich whose husband had died fighting American forces in Italy, developed a friendship with Corporal James Patterson, who brought her family soap and toothpaste every week for 6 months. Their relationship evolved from grateful recipient and generous donor to genuine friendship based on mutual respect and shared concern for her 8 children's welfare. The medical benefits of restoring access to soap and toothpaste were significant and prevented health crises that could have affected both German civilians and American occupation forces. Proper hygiene prevented skin infections, dental problems, and communicable diseases that thrived in conditions where people couldn't maintain basic cleanliness. Army medical officers noted dramatic improvements in community health when soap distribution programs were implemented, with reduced rates of dysentery, typhus, and other diseases associated with poor sanitation. The economic impact of American hygiene distribution was substantial because it represented millions of dollars worth of supplies purchased by individual soldiers with their own money and distributed without any expectation of compensation or reward. This voluntary expenditure by American military personnel demonstrated the generosity and humanitarian values that distinguished American occupation policies from those of other Allied powers. The contrast with Soviet occupation zones, where German civilians received minimal assistance and often faced deliberate deprivation, made American generosity seem even more remarkable to German recipients. Religious motivations played a significant role in inspiring many American soldiers to share hygiene supplies with German civilians, as Christian concepts of charity and caring for those in need influenced their interactions with former enemies. Chaplain Robert Matthews organized formal distribution programs at several bases that connected American soldiers with German families requiring basic necessities. These programs demonstrated Christian values in action and created positive associations between American democratic society and religious principles of mercy and compassion. The feminine aspects of hygiene restoration were particularly meaningful for German women who had been forced by wartime conditions to abandon traditional standards of appearance and cleanliness that defined their identities as women. Receiving lipstick, face powder, and perfume along with soap and toothpaste allowed women to reclaim aspects of femininity that had been casualties of total war. Anna Weber, a secretary from Frankfurt, wrote about the psychological impact of receiving cosmetics from American soldiers. For 4 years, I felt like a refugee, a survivor, a victim. Today, an American soldier gave me lipstick, and suddenly I remembered that I am also a woman with beauty and grace worth preserving. The children's reactions to soap and toothpaste distribution were particularly touching because many had never seen these products and didn't understand their purpose or proper use. American soldiers found themselves teaching German children how to brush their teeth, how to use soap effectively, and why hygiene was important for health and social acceptance. These educational interactions created positive associations with American soldiers among German children who would grow up with favorable attitudes toward American culture and values. The long-term impact of hygiene distribution programs extended beyond immediate health benefits to influence German attitudes toward American generosity and democratic values during the crucial post-war Reconstruction period. German women who had received soap and toothpaste from American soldiers became advocates for cooperation with American occupation policies and supporters of democratic Reconstruction efforts. Their positive experiences with individual American soldiers created grassroots support for American leadership that influenced German political choices for generations. The documentation of hygiene distribution activities through photographs, letters, and reports provides evidence of one of the most successful humanitarian aspects of American occupation policy in Germany. These materials show the dramatic before and after transformations of German women and children who gained access to basic hygiene supplies, demonstrating the powerful psychological impact of restoring dignity and cleanliness to people who had been deprived of these basic necessities. The success of informal hygiene distribution programs influenced official American policy, decisions about civilian relief and reconstruction, assistance that eventually evolved into formal programs like care packages and Marshall Plan aid. Military commanders who witnessed the positive results of individual soldier generosity became advocates for expanded humanitarian assistance programs that served both moral imperatives and strategic objectives in building lasting peace and cooperation. Today, the story of American soldiers giving soap and toothpaste to German women serves as a reminder that small acts of kindness can have profound psychological and political impacts that extend far beyond their immediate humanitarian value. The decision to share basic necessities with former enemies demonstrated American values in action and created personal connections that transformed abstract concepts of democracy and human dignity into tangible experiences that shaped international relationships for decades to come.